From the earliest times recorded in the Holy Scriptures, there lived two sons of Adam and Eve, named Cain and Abel, who each followed very different ways of life. Cain was the eldest son and worked the fields where he tended the earth and grew crops to provide food, while Abel chose to care for the flocks and led a simple life as a shepherd. When the time came for both brothers to offer gifts to show their thanks to God for the blessings they received, Cain gathered part of the harvest from the produce of the land and prepared an offering from his crops, while Abel took the best of his flock and presented it as his gift with a grateful heart. God looked upon Abel's offering with favor and accepted it because it came from a place of deep sincerity and love. However, God did not regard Cain's gift in the same way, and this made Cain feel upset and filled his heart with envy and sorrow. As time passed, jealousy grew strong in Cain until it overwhelmed his thoughts and led him to harden his heart toward his brother. One day, while Cain and Abel were together in the field, Cain invited Abel to join him away from the others, and in that quiet and lonely place, dark emotions took hold of him. Overcome by anger, Cain attacked Abel, and in that moment his hand ended the life of his brother. The peaceful land was filled with sorrow as Abel fell, and the blood of innocence was shed upon the ground. When God learnt of this terrible act, he called out to Cain, asking for the truth about his brother. Instead of confessing his guilt, Cain tried to hide his shame, but God, who sees every deed, knew the truth of what had happened. In his judgment, God declared that Cain must bear a heavy burden because of his sin. He told Cain that the land, which had once given him a rich harvest, would no longer yield its strength for him, and that Cain would be forced to wander the earth as a reminder of his wrongdoing. This loss and the weight of his actions drove Cain into a life of sorrow and regret. The story of Cain and Abel has been passed down through many generations as a biblical story to remind all people of the dangers of envy and unrestrained anger. It teaches us that every action we take has a deep effect on our lives and on those with whom we share our journey. The moral of this biblical story is clear. It tells us that love, compassion, and respect for one another are the true marks of a good heart. It shows that when jealousy takes root, it can lead to terrible outcomes and a life filled with regret. By remembering the fate of Cain and the tragic loss of Abel, we are called to nurture kindness and forgiveness in our lives, so that we may live in harmony and work toward a future filled with peace and understanding. This biblical story of Cain and Abel is a powerful lesson that warns us about the consequences of letting anger and jealousy rule our hearts, and reminds us always to choose compassion and care for our brothers and sisters with true love.